Ready when you are. That's alright. So you want to see the post? Yeah, What's up guys, Matt and Tom from footballboots.co.uk, and today we have our latest boot battle. We've got the Hypervenom Phantom 3DF going against the Mercurial Superfly 5, so a big battle between Nike's biggest models out there at the moment. But which boot's going to come out on top? Let's find out in a full test. So this boot battle is definitely suited to forwards and wingers. Nike have marketed their Phantom 3 to be a goal scorer's boot, and that's why they're going to be worn by Lewandowski, Edinson Cavani and Aubameyang. Now saying that, the Mercurial Superfly 5 is also going to be worn by some great goal scorers too. Cristiano Ronaldo, Alexis Sanchez and Anthony Martial will be wearing the Mercurial Superfly 5 this season. So getting into the upper of each boot, and let's talk about the Phantom 3 first. And of course, the biggest headline about this model is that it's entirely flying it for the first time in the Hypervenom history. It really has created such more of a well-rounded, softer and more comfortable boot. One of my favourite things about the Hypervenom, and of course on this Phantom 3, is just how flexible it is. It has that almost dimpled reptile-like graphic texture which wraps the toe box and also side panels, and it really does make the boot very flexible so your foot can move inside the boot very nicely. So the Phantom 3 is made entirely of Flyknit, but what does that actually mean? Well, it's going to promote two big benefits. The first one is it's going to be very sock-like. The Flyknit material itself is slightly elasticated, so it hugs the foot from heel to toe, so it really does fit like a sock. The second thing is that it's incredibly seamless, and much more seamless than the Phantom 2. The Phantom 3 doesn't feature any change from the Flyknit material across that tongue region where the laces are to a Nike skin. All it is Flyknit across the dynamic fit collar and across the entire boot with a Nike skin layer just added on top where those striking and touch elements are. So what's happening with the Mercurial Superfly 5? Well, once again, it is full Flyknit, but for me, it doesn't feel as soft or flexible as the Phantom 3. So with the Superfly 5 being Flyknit just like the Phantom 3, they should feel very similar in hand and on feet, but that's not necessarily the case. The Superfly 5 features speed ribs, and those speed ribs actually make the upper for me slightly stiffer compared to the Phantom 3 with those dimples. So apart from the Flyknit construction of the Phantom 3, what else is happening with the upper? So the biggest piece of technology on the Phantom 3 are those pour-on pods which cover the instep, toe box and lateral side panel. And they're actually very intelligent because they are made of that pour-on material. When you touch the ball and try to caress it, they feel very soft to add a cushion touch. But when you go to strike with power, they become slightly firmer, so it is very intelligent. So while the Phantom 3 adds a little bit of cushion on purchase, what does the Superfly 5 offer? So we've mentioned it already, and the Superfly 5 features speed ribs, but what do they actually do? Well, the biggest positive about this certain piece of technology is close control while dribbling, which is essential for wingers and forwards. So I guess that's one of the biggest differences. If you want to strike the ball with added venom, then the Hypervenom Phantom 3DF is going to be a great option for you. Or if you want to fly past opposition defenders, then the boot for you will be the Mercurial Superfly 5. So you like both models by Nike, but you don't know what one is going to suit your foot type better. Well, the Phantom 3DF is going to be wide in the midfoot and then narrow at the toe box. But overall, it's going to be very universal, so for me, any foot type could fit this boot. Now on the other hand, the Mercurial Superfly 5 is narrow in the midfoot and also narrow in the toe box. So if you have wide feet, I would definitely stay away from the Superfly 5 and then head over to the Hypervenom Phantom 3. But if you do have narrow feet, then the Superfly 5 will be a great option for you because it really does hug the majority of your foot. So let's talk about the lacing system of each boot, and this is one of my favourite features of the Hypervenom Phantom 3. So the Phantom 3 boots feature exposed lace hoops, and these lace hoops are actually fly-wire cables. In the Phantom 2, we saw that there was 1 meter's worth of flywire on that boot, but this time round on the Phantom 3, there's 3 meters worth, which is really going to add to the lockdown of the boot, which also enhances responsiveness. So not only does it offer responsiveness and looks cool, you can also customize the fit of these exposed lace hoops of flywire. You can actually pull them a little bit tighter in certain areas if you want to, which is a great addition to have. So the Phantom 3 features exposed lace hoops, but what about the Superfly 5? Well, there's actually no hoops here, there's lace holes, and they go through the flywire Nike Skin upper entirely, so you can't actually customize the fit, as well as the Hypervenom Phantom 3. So the Phantom 3 gets the point in this category. Now, one thing which is massively up for debate is the design of the Superfly 5 and Phantom 3. The Superfly 5 was the first boot by Nike to feature that Clash-like design of a half and half. Now, to be honest, each boot's design isn't personally for me, but if I had to choose one design, I would go for the half and half of the Superfly 5 because it splits almost right down the middle of the boot. The Phantom 3 goes off-centre to the lateral side of the boot, which just looks a little bit strange for me when actually looking down on feet, and the top-down view is very important to me. Now, one of the biggest visual differences between each model, which also affects fit, is the dynamic fit collar height. Now, on the Superfly 5, we've got the original dynamic fit collar, which hugs quite high up the ankle and in a horizontal fashion. But what's actually happening with the Phantom 3DF is that the medial side of the collar is actually slightly higher than on the lateral side. So Nike have said that the ankle bones on the medial side of the foot are slightly higher on the medial side compared to the lateral side. So that's exactly how they've styled their Phantom 3. So for anyone who watches our videos, you know that I personally wear the Finish, which is the low cut Hypervenom, so I'm not actually a big fan of the dynamic fit collar. So I'd actually go for the Hypervenom Phantom 3, but in the low cut version. So when the Superfly 5 was first released, it stunned the boot market by featuring an all new Soleplate. One of my favourite things about the Superfly 4 and previous Superfly models was the carbon fibre outsole, which I think looked great and also felt very responsive. So how do they actually upgrade it to the Superfly 5? Well, they actually added a nylon chassis Soleplate, which is also contoured, which feels so unique but incredible. I really love how my foot sinks into the Soleplate itself because it is contoured, compared to other football boots which is just a flat plate. Now, the Hypervenom Phantom 3 also features an all-new Soleplate. It still has a slight split toe design, but it comes with hyper-reactive technology. Now, what that actually means is going to be very responsive where you need it to be in the midfoot for push-off and acceleration. But it's also going to be very flexible around the toe box, so your foot can move freely for pivoting and turning. I think both sole plates are absolutely top class by Nike, but I do have to say that the contoured sole plate of the Superfly 5 feels like no other experience I've ever played in any other football boot. So we've spoken about the sole plate, but what's actually happening with the stud configuration? Now, across the Superfly 5, we've got very aggressive and deep chevron shaped studs from heel to toe, which are incredibly aggressive, which is why the Superfly 5 is worn by a lot of wingers and forwards who want to push off with acceleration. So the Phantom 3 chevron shaped studs are positioned slightly differently, which add a little bit of twisting and turning benefits. But that's also complemented by the medial studs, which are hexagonal in shape, which is brilliant for pivoting. So apart from the speed ribs of the Superfly 5, its biggest technology is the ACC, which comes with any top-end Nike boot. But not only does the Hypervenom Phantom 3 come with ACC, it also comes with Nike grip technology on the sock liner and also on the plate itself. Now, what that actually does and means is there's going to be no heel slippage or movement inside the boot itself, which is brilliant for lockdown and responsiveness, and that's exactly what the Phantom 3 is all about and aimed at goal scorers. So what are the main performance aspects of each boot? Now, the Superfly 5 is going to give you two things: added responsiveness and so much traction. Now, there's no doubt in my eyes that the traction you get from the Superfly 5 is the highest I've ever felt. But how does the Phantom 3DF compare? Well, it's going to give you great ball striking because of those pour-on pods technology, which is that dimple across the upper. You're going to get so much nice purchase when striking it with power. Now, alongside that, you do get that added cushion touch, which is a little bit similar to the Obra 2. Now, while I have to say I do love how responsive the Superfly 5 is because of that high level traction of the chevron shaped studs, I think for me, I'd actually personally prefer the Phantom 3 with its more flexible hyper reactive sole plate because it's a little bit more user friendly. So what's our overall verdict? Hypervenom Phantom 3DF or Mercurial Superfly 5? So let's not take anything away from the Superfly 5 because there's no doubt it's a great model. But the Hypervenom Phantom 3 range is the best Flyknit boot ever made by Nike, so that wins our boot battle this time around. So while the Superfly 5 is responsive and also adds a little bit of close control, the Phantom 3 is responsive. It's great for ball striking, it's comfortable, it's flexible. It really has so many pros about it that for me it's a great boot and something that I'm going to wear in the low cut version this season. So there it is, guys, Nike's two biggest models going head to head. Hope it's given you a better insight into what the boots are actually like and what boot is actually suited better to you. Thanks for watching, cheers.